Anybody can read or tell in your own words.
I mean, they basically do verify and validate. What is the SRS required to?
Yes, that is correct. So they will verify, verification and validation are two important, concepts of the testing, like we discussed in the beginning, or to check completeness and correctness, whether it's complete or covering every requirement and correctly implemented or not. So that's all you need to do. So to verify these and validate these, you cannot just go about start testing randomly. So you need to adhere to some techniques which we call as black box testing techniques or closed box. So the name black box stuck with this because the every flight has a black box, right? And that records all the important information that's going on in the flight is related to the conversation in the cockpit or whatever the pilot says, and whatever the pilot is taking in terms of decisions and maneuvering the flight. All these things will be recorded in form of logs and chat or audio, not video. So that will be hidden, right? So only after the crash they will recover this black box and go inside and check what went right, what went wrong during the flight accident or something. So the same thing occurs. So why black box means it's not visible to the software tester, in the sense that what developer codes is totally closed or black when software testing team actually starts testing, right? So why they actually should not know the coding, because if they do, then they cannot come up with the right scenarios, because they will be taken over by the code, right? They will be influenced, or you can say. So you should not discuss how you coded and what are the for loops, what are the conditional structures, where did you put if condition to the developer. So that's why you should not know the code. You should only know the requirements and system requirements, business requirements, and designs. So that's why it is called black box. Okay. So we have the some techniques, black box testing techniques, which we will discuss. But before that, I'll tell you the stages of the testing. What are the different stages or different types of testing? So in general, there are three types of testing. One is usability testing, second is functional testing, third is non-functional testing. So the category is important because you cannot mix all of them. That if you do, you as a tester, you get confused with what is what. So there will be separate teams again. They will hire performance testers separately. They will hire automation testers separately. They will also hire accessibility team members separately for testing all the accessibility, means for the hearing impaired and visually impaired, all those for high contrast testing. So that is different kind of testing. Okay, so usability testing means it's just to check the look and feel of the overall page rendering and page flows and the fonts and the contrast colors and the font size, font types, everything related to look and feel only. So this is purely in cosmetic nature, and user friendliness will be tested too. And so they will look for, like I said, look and feel, ease of use, short navigations. If it contains long navigations, you just to reach this next button, submit button, you need to fill a whole bunch of form fields. That's not good. So they will check for these. Also, they will check for whether the supporting documents, help documents are present and they are correct or not in terms of the writings. So the technical documents will be prepared by technical writer, like help document. Like whatever product you purchase, it will come with the user manual. Likewise, the software is also product. So it has to come up with some manual support in case something goes wrong, or how to documents mostly. So they will also go through these documents for the correctness of the documents and raise the issues accordingly. So that is taking care in the usability. Okay, and in functional testing, which is the main testing, this is a mandatory testing, and this comes under the system testing. And what is the main agenda of this? To verify project's functionalities in terms of customer requirements. Simple as that. So again, in functional testing, there are two subtypes. One is smoke or sanity testing. The other is functionality testing. Smoke testing, the name is because in hardware industry, whatever they manufacture, whether it is car, rod, any screwdriver, whatever it is, they will first and foremost check whether the object is catching the fire or not. Okay, so if it doesn't catch fire, the QC passed. If it catches fire, QC failed in the smoke testing. So that name stuck with this IT also in terms of testing software. So that means in software industry, the important features, important functionalities are working or not, that is the first concern for the client. So they need to perform the smoke testing every day or every night after the nightly builds. So as a tester, be it manual or automated, you need to include only main that would not take more than 15 minutes or 30 minutes max. Main features like login and some database, some web services activities, and just end it there. Do not cover everything, otherwise it could take more than 30 minutes. So important functionalities will be covered as part of the smoke testing, and it will be run every day in the morning if it is a manual testing, because manual testers come in the morning and first thing they will do is smoke testing. If it is automated by automation testers, it will be running in the nightly, because mostly the dot releases, dot builds deployment will occur in the nightly, and automatically the continuous integration, that's what we call, will take care of it. It will trigger the automation test, smoke test also. So either way, smoke test needs to be done. Okay, so when it comes to functionality testing, functional testing has two parts: smoke testing and functionality testing. So functionality testing is a part of functional testing, so you should know the difference. Okay, so this is a standard question in the interviews also. What is the difference between functional testing and functionality testing? So functional testing is part of system testing, like usability, functional and non-functional. That is a broader perspective. And functionality testing, it purely concentrates on the functionality, features, functionality of the application. So it is a part of functional testing. It is not a part of non-functional testing, because non-functional testing doesn't take care of the functionalities, obviously. So that way you can relate to it. Okay, so there are again some types of functionality testing. Okay, so what are those? Let's look into those. In terms of coverage wise, one is graphical user interface testing, or GUI testing, or behavioral coverage testing. So like the name suggests, it will just check whether all objects are getting displayed correctly and in the appropriate places. So you cannot have a different GUI tester, obviously. So if that is your question, so it is a part, like you need to keep this in mind implicitly. You need to cover in GUI in your test scenario, in the test steps when you elaborate. So just for the coverage, that's why I mentioned to verify the project functionality with the below coverages. So there will be no segregation, but just to keep just so that you keep these things in mind while writing the test case steps. GUI testing is also called as control flow testing. during this testing team can operate application under test, software under test, mostly AUT is used, screens, and observe the behavior of each and every object. Okay, not just the presence of the objects, but also to verify the behavior of objects. Like for example, there is a menu item. So some projects or some websites have, after hovering on the menu, it will drop down all the sub menus, right? Just by hovering without clicking. So these are the behavior. So they also check the behavior of this as part of implicitly in the test case. I mean, not separately. You don't write the separate test cases with GUI. That will be too cumbersome. And checkboxes also. So checkbox in the sense, some checkboxes should be by default checked. Okay. So likewise, text boxes. So in text boxes, some text should be there pre-written, and after clicking on it, it will be cleared. Some text boxes will be cleared by default. So you should check with these. Images. So some images, if you hover over, they will display alt text. Some don't. So these things can be checked. Drop down. What is the default value that is displayed in the drop down? Some, like if you have country drop down, some drop downs will have select country. That is the value you see. Some drop downs will use directly, you'll see United States of America, right? So it's all dependent on the depending upon the requirements again. So you should check these default values of whatever it is: screen size, icons, buttons, links, toolbars, etc. So those will be covered in the GUI aspect of the testing. Then comes inputs domain coverage. Okay, so you should keep these things in mind while writing test cases as well as while executing them. So you should be very alert when executing. So some things might be missed in the test case design. So you need to cover them. Only when you look at the screen live, you will know. So you will come back and modify the test cases. So that is also good idea. Okay, so second type of functionality testing is inputs domain coverage. Okay, or input domain coverage. So like the name suggests, it is related to field validation. Like I said, username must take only 3 to 30 characters alphanumeric, right? So now input domain coverage, you need to check 3 to 30. Okay, you try to enter 31 and see if it is not accepted, right? So that's how it should be. And it should not even let you type the 31st character. So you should check with this. And obviously you can type 2 characters, but only when you hit the login button, you will know, okay, 2 characters is not acceptable in the username field. So those things you need to keep in mind while coming up with the test steps. So those different inputs you need to analyze using black box testing techniques, which we'll discuss after this, which are known as BVA and DCP. For the size of the 3 to 30 characters, you need to apply the boundary value analysis technique. And for the type, alphanumeric or alpha only or numeric only or alphanumeric special characters, this is a type. So using equivalence class partitioning, ECP. So we will cover those in the inputs domain. So we will discuss about these later, don't worry. Then error handling coverage. So that is mainly to prevent or control the wrong operation, just to avoid the wrong operation. So this is to operate on screens by giving invalid input to check existence of error messages. So this is mostly you check for the field validation as part of it, you can say, but it is segregated just for the sake of coverage purposes. So error handling in the sense, if you enter, like I said, 2 characters username and hit the login button, so it will immediately display wrong user ID or invalid user ID because you did not enter. It mostly will display invalid user ID or invalid password, right? So you have to again dig into whether invalid because actually invalid or it's not following the field validation. Okay. So all these things will be covered in error handling. And manipulations and calculations coverage. This is mostly related to output values. So for example, you have flight reservation application. You book the flight to and fro for 2 members, and when you check the total price that you have to pay, the total price is coming as incorrectly, right? It is not adding up the tax, let's say. So that those things will be checked in calculations coverage. So you just have to write the test prior to that, so that expected value total price must be equal to number of passengers multiplied by to and fro price plus tax that is expected. If both are expected meets the actual, then you say pass, otherwise fail during the course of execution. Also backend or database testing, because so far we have been only talking about the front end, that is browser related activities. So after some front end activities, submission of front end activities, there will be they will be impacting on the database, right? Either in terms of inserting a row or updating a row or deleting a row, dropping a row, whatever it is, based on the requirements again. So you need to take care of or test these backend activities too, even though they are not visible. That's why they are called backend, right? So for this, you need to know how to write the SQL queries, which we will also discuss later in the database testing. So simple SQL queries will do mostly using select so and so column from so and so table where so and so condition is met, just like that. So either manually or automation wise, both. So just to check, for example, you have submitted a page, sign up page, you have signed up for the Google Gmail, right? Then immediately it will insert a record into user table, let's say in the Google, which will contain username, password, first name, last name, date of birth, gender, all these details. So now as a tester, I have to make sure that true, right? So I will log into database and run the query and check manually. If it is the same details that I entered in front end is inserted into database, right? Okay, after this, order of functionality. So like the name suggests, the order is important in whether it is front end or back end. Back end you don't need to, is mostly it will be taken care by DBS. So it is the front end. So again, you take help of requirement documents only, and you also use your common sense, because requirements may not cover everything 100%. So for example, I'll say forgot password link is displayed in the sign up page. So that is actually not correct, not feasible, because you haven't even signed up. So what is the question of forgetting password? First you sign up, then during the sign in page you can actually you would need the forget password. So this is a not correct order, so you can raise the issue about it. So likewise, lot of order. So you see OK button is displayed after the cancel button, so which is wrong order. But if the order is correct for the requirement, so that is fine. But the requirement says OK button, then cancel button should be displayed in the login page. But you see cancel and OK, so you can raise this order wise and functionality wise issues. And SOA testing also is a part, right? SOA testing in the sense web services testing, SOAP testing, REST testing, and API testing. So these are all things that are covered in SOA, service oriented architecture testing. Everything is a part of this. So in mostly in 3-tier architecture or entire architecture, we have client and we have database server and we have web server in between. So this will take care of all the communication part, like whatever is you're going to communicate will be transformed into XML and translated to other system in such a way that other system understands it. And same thing in the reverse order, to other system responds with XML or JSON request if it is REST, and it will translate and again come back to client, which is browser, and display it HTML. So HTML will just be the purpose of display only, but under the hood, what's going on is the communication in terms of these web services. So some web services will be invoked during some point of the application, so you need to test them manually or automation wise. So we will learn these too using different tools like SoapUI, Restful, Postman, ReadyAPI. These are the different tools. So our tools. Okay, so that's about the interdependency between the HTML and SOA. The HTML is used for the display purpose only because it only contains VB-script, JavaScript, and some dynamic stuff, and HTML, of course. And SOA is actually for communication purpose, 2 or more systems, like I said, to interact with multiple systems for integration with, like, if there is a Google API, it interacts with different systems and collects the information and displays onto, let's say, Google Plus in terms of HTML. And likewise, there are many, like different Visa. It also interacts with Apple Pay and something like stuff like that.